Terry Butler from Obituary and Inhuman Condition, and you're listening to Richard Metal Fan.
Hey, what's up, guys? Episode 341 of Richard Metal Fan Interviews, calling from Zoom, and I'm here with the legendary bassist in death metal, Terry Butler from Obituary, very Inhuman Condition, played with also bands like Death and 6 Feet Under and a shitload of other bands. So, how are you doing today, Terry?
Good, how are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. It's a lovely afternoon here in Georgia. Just had some lunch. How is it over down in Florida?
It is boiling hot in between the storms we're getting, but that's Florida, so yeah, I'm used to it.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's so great to be able to talk with you. So, kind of what I want to talk about is I know you got the new Inhuman Condition album coming in, but we also want to talk about like your musical history and sort of do a speed run of your discography. But take me back to young Terry Butler. So, growing up in Florida, what were the first bands that got you into metal? What made you want to slap at a bass?
Some of the first bands I really got into were Kiss, Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Leonard Skinner. I had an uncle that was a few years older than me, and he always turned me on to everything. He said, "Hey, check this out," so it was a good learning experience. And then from there, I just, started listening to the darker music, started getting into Priest and Maiden early on, and then, Raven, Venom, Bathory, Hellhammer, then it went from
Good
there.
shit.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, but what I'm curious because a lot of people when a lot of people first know you with playing with Death, but I'm always curious like what were your bands like before joining up with Death? I'm always curious because I don't think nobody's ever asked that.
Yeah, I was in just a couple really nothing bands playing in the garage around here, but then my best friend Bill Andrews at the time, he was a drummer of Massacre. He started up Massacre, and then I was there at every practice. I was there all the time, and the opportunity came up for me to join the band, and I did. I was in the band for about 8 months, 9 months. Played, 10 or 12 shows, and it was a great experience. It was my first actual band that I was in that did anything. And then we kind of just segued right into Death. We joined Chuck right after Scream Bloody Gore was released. Rick, Bill, and myself, and we kind of gave Death a solid lineup to go on the road and play shows, which they've never really had at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, and then
Yeah,
talking about like your first record with Death and well your only record, Spiritual Healing. I love
yeah,
this album. This is like pretty much one of my favorite death metal
yeah.
albums of all time, and hard to believe it's been 35 years of spiritual healing. So, what do you remember about like the whole writing and recording process for this album?
It was amazing. We joined Death right as Scream Bloody Gore came out. We did a tour for that, and then Leprosy came out, which I mean, obviously, I was there for the writing process. I was there in the studio. I just, I kind of had an incident in the studio that it did not allow me to record the bass on Leprosy, but I was there. So Spiritual Healing, was my reboot in the studio, and obviously, I nailed it and did it and everything. So I love that record. The writing process was amazing. Kind of right at the beginning, we needed a second guitar player because we didn't have one, and I had met James Murphy here in Tampa, and he was playing with, at the time, Hallows Eve. And I had his phone number, and I told Chuck, "Hey, I know a shredding guitar player that loves this kind of music." And he's like, "Cool." I said, "But he's in Atlanta with Hallows Eve." And Chuck's like, "Well, you got his phone number?" I said, "Yes." So Chuck called him up there, and James was like, "Hey, give me a week to come down, and I'll see what's up." And James came down, and we started rehearsing, and it just clicked. It was amazing. His musicianship and his energy mixed with ours was like amazing, because it was like we could do a little bit more musically. We can get a little bit more melodic and try different things such as harmonies and this kind of stuff. So yeah, we all practiced together for about 2 or 3 months, wrote the album, went to the studio, and it was amazing, amazing process.
Yeah. And what do you remember about like playing some of those shows on the spiritual healing cycle?
uh, they were great. I mean, they were huge. People were starting to really, death metal was really starting to take off. And what was cool was playing some of those songs that I helped write. I helped write 4 of the songs on that record, and just to play those live, it was like a little redemption for me, because of the Leprosy mishap.
Yeah.
But it was great. People were coming out. It was like a great time for death metal, as I said. We're starting to get noticed by things like MTV and some of the more commercial magazines,
Yeah, back
and
when MTV played music.
yeah, I mean, death metal's still the ugly stepchild kind of everything, but I mean, we're still trying to get. I mean, it's come a long way. Obviously, we got cartoons on the Cartoon Network about a metal band, death metal band, and so forth. So yeah, it's getting popular. I mean, it's a lot more popular than it was. But
Yeah.
no, it was great. Spiritual Healing was a great time.
Yeah. But then you toured for a little bit, and then of course 1990 you left Death. So how hard was it to leave Death?
Um, yeah, it sucked. I mean, I'm not I wasn't inside Chuck's head at the time, but I know he had some things going on that he felt that he had to cancel a tour. We felt like we couldn't cancel that tour, and all that's history. But we started writing songs for Human. We had 4 songs written for Human. Here, where I live right now, in the garage, we were writing those songs. So, in between the first leg and the second leg of the Spiritual Healing Tour, we started writing Human. So we were continuing on and everything, and it just things happen. That's just life. There's forks in the road and roads to choose, and we thought our best course was to choose a certain road, and whatever. History is what it is. But I regret that we couldn't have made a few more albums with Chuck.
Yeah. And then kind of going into a Massacre, you did From Beyond. I love this album. So tell me about
Yeah.
making this masterpiece.
Yeah. Let's see, all those songs on there were written like in 85 and 86. So when we got back together at the end of the Leprosy European tour, I called up Rick and I said, "Hey, here's the deal. Bill and I obviously won't be in death anymore. Let's get Massacre back together. Let's just record all those demo songs just to get a release out there because Earache Records was really interested. So that's what we did. We came home from that last Spiritual Healing tour, and a couple months later, we were in the studio. We recorded From Beyond, and we were just looking to record that album, get it out there, and then go right back in the studio shortly and start writing new songs for a new Massacre album. Well, From Beyond it took off. People loved it. It started selling great. So we got tours offers thrown at us. So we're like, yeah, sure, let's go on tour. So we did 3 tours for that,
Yeah. And then
and
I know you also that later in 92 you did the Inhuman Condition EP. So
yes,
how'd the idea
yeah.
of that EP come to be?
Well, so after we did the tour cycles for From Beyond, we were like, okay, let's start getting some songs going. So we're like, let's throw an EP out there first, and we threw a couple songs on there, and then we did a cover song. We did Warhead by Venoms on that, and
Badass cover, by the way.
yeah, so it was great. Cronus came down, was in the studio with us. It was amazing meeting him at the time because obviously he was a huge inspiration for me and everyone else as
Wow.
well.
Yeah.
So
And
that was
that
great.
is fucking
And
amazing.
yeah, so we did a tour for that too, and then it just fell apart. Massacre's always been a band for whatever reasons. There's always been turmoil and drama for whatever. It's just the nature of the game for that band for some reason. And so, you know, Bill kind of at that point just stopped playing music, and I coasted for about a year, and then I joined up with the guys at 6 Feet Under, and started writing that first record. So
Yeah. Haunted, which hard to believe this
yeah.
year does mark 30 years of Haunted. So, being as it has been 30 years, do you have like a different like viewpoint about this album now as opposed to when you first put it out?
Um, Yeah, I mean, when we put it out, I thought it was quality music. People were like, "Oh, wow, you got a guy from Cannibal Corpse, a guy from Death, a guy from Obituary. It's going to be like this super progressive, full of blast beats and craziness." We're like, "No, that's not what we want to do. We want to do some groovy, just heavy, dark music. And I think that's what we achieved on that first record. To me, that first record is pretty much what 6 Feet Under were all about. And kind of lost our way through some of the albums, but
Yeah.
that's a great album. I'm proud of that album, um, and I think it holds up today. Yeah,
Yeah, and would you consider like like 6 Feet Under to be kind of like a super group with like Chris coming from Cannibal and then
yeah,
you coming from like Death and Massacre and stuff?
Yeah, I would call it that. You know, it was intended initially right off the bat to kind of be a side project. Alan West, like in '92 or '3, he sent me a demo with 4 songs on it, and those 4 songs ended up being on that first album. And he's like, "Hey, I want you and Bill Andrews to be on my project." I'm like, "Great, that sounds killer." Well, about a year later, I started jamming with Alan, and those songs were there. I'm like, "Hey, dude, I was just waiting for you to get a hold of me." But yeah, I think it's a great record, and I think it holds up, and I'm proud of it for sure.
Yeah. And I love like the album artwork, which is taken from the VHS artwork for The Haunting of Morella. Were you like fans of that
Yeah.
movie at the time?
Well, not re I mean, I had seen that movie, and to be honest, I didn't put the connection together because it had been like 10 years since I had seen the movie. That artwork, I think, was kind of like what do they call public domain or something, and we just chose it, and yeah, it's killer artwork.
Yeah.
So it wasn't intentional, like, hey, that's a great movie. Let's just emulate that movie in some way. No, it was just like, oh, it's killer artwork. Oh, by the way, it's also on this VHS. Like, all right, whatever.
Yeah, but still a great album. And what was like the touring cycle like for Haunted? Do you remember like being as was like a new band at the time, like and how were
Yeah.
fans like reacting, especially with Chris Barnes leaving Cannibal and now starting up with 6 Feet Under? Or how has like the reception been from the fans and stuff at the time?
I mean, the tour was great. It was a great turnout, and people wanted to hear what the new thing was, and at the time of that tour, Chris was still in Cannibal Corpse. You know, it wasn't until later at the end of that tour when we got home that he was told he was out of the band, I think. So, but it was great. It was new. I had never toured with Alan. I had never toured with Chris. So it was like, or Greg Gall, the drummer, who's my brother-in-law, by the way.
Oh wow.
Um, it was never, I'd never toured with those dudes. So it was kind of getting to know each other a little bit, kind of feeling each other out. But it was great. We're all professionals and we knew what to do. And it was a great tour.
Nice. And then I guessing in between like Haunted and Warpath, you did the Alive and Dead EP. I thought it was a
Yeah.
good EP, and I love how you also did a cover of Judas Priest's Grinder. So how did
Yeah.
the idea of this EP come to be? Was it something to hold fans over before you started making Warpath?
Yeah. That's kind of what it was. It's like, hey, we got Alan's like, I got a couple songs here. We're like, all right, well, let's throw a cover song with those 2 songs, and then let's throw a couple live songs on there. It's just a holdover for the next album cycle. Um, I think it's I think it's cool. I like it. The only thing that bothers me about that EP is the artwork is terrible on the cover.
Yeah, it's like a
I mean,
weird little like circle thing.
yeah, it's like I don't know. It's like it could have is yeah. You
Yeah.
could have come up with something way better. It's like, hey, why didn't we steal another VHS cover, put it on there?
Yeah. And then next up is Warpath. I thought it was a pretty good album because usually
Yeah.
with the first album you have like your entire life to write and there's a lot of hype with the first album. When it came to making Warpath, did you felt pressure to follow up Haunted?
I don't think no, I don't think anybody else felt pressured, It was like Alan had a bunch of songs written already, so it was easy to record those songs. And we kind of changed it up a little bit. I don't want to say it got a little more commercial, but it was some of the songs kind of went towards trying to get on a different path, maybe, you know what I'm saying? Like maybe more of a, I don't know, to be accepted a little more socially path or whatever. But there's some great songs on there. And unfortunately, Alan West, I think he did one tour for that album and then he was out.
Yeah. Yeah. But then of course, next one I want to talk about is Maximum Violence. And I know it's been 25 years of this album, so tell me
Yeah.
about the making of this album.
Okay. So Steve Swanson came in the band. He came in the band for a lot of the touring cycle for Warpath. And he nailed the songs down. He's a great guitar player. So we just started writing songs for a new album. And we were like, okay, let's just get back to like doing what we all kind of grew up on and what we all like. So that album's maybe a little faster than Warpath and a little more death metal like. But it was fun recording that album. Had a blast doing that. and it was cool to be able to contribute on that album. I think I wrote like 5 or 6 of the songs on there, so it
Yeah,
was a good
which
time,
songs were
definitely.
they?
I know Torture Killer. Wow, no, I just gotta think of the song titles. It's been you have to. I turn my brain off to things I'm not doing, so I haven't done 6 Feet Under in like, you know,
Yeah, because
15
you want to
years.
just focus on the present and not look back.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I would have to look at the titles to tell you, but
Yeah, I mean, I have
you
like the
know,
track listing right here. I don't know if you can see
yeah,
it.
yeah. I can't see it, but it's all right.
They're all
Um,
good.
yeah, I mean, I know that's terrible for me not to remember the songs I wrote, but hey, like I said, I just turn my brain off to that stuff and I forget the titles.
All good. But then next up is and you did a cover album, Graveyard Classics, which I think
Yes.
those are pretty good covers. So, what made you guys decide to like do a cover album?
Well, that kind of all came out of that EP we did when we did the Judas Priest song. We were like that EP sold well in Germany, and we're like, hey, let's, you know, that cover turned out cool. And Brian Slagle's, why don't you do an album full of covers? See how that goes. So that's what we did. We just chose some songs, uh, and that cover record sold like 20,000 copies in Germany alone, 20 or 25,000. So it was huge. So of course, it's like, later on down the line, hey, let's do a second one. Then it
Yeah.
turned into a third one. So it just came about by a favor to the label. And also we know that, the Judas Priest song was received pretty well. So we just went for it
Yeah.
and turned out to be a cool thing.
Yeah. Then next up is True Carnage. I thought this was a pretty
Yeah.
good album. Like one of my favorite songs on there is One Bullet Left, and you got like Ice-T doing guest vocals.
Yeah.
So how did he end up guesting
Yeah.
on that song?
Um, yeah, that is a good record. We kind of tuned down way low. We kind of went the corn route a little bit on that. But Chris was a huge fan of Ice-T, Body Count and everything. And we just started mentioning it'd be cool to do a song with him. And then Slagle's like, I can hook it up. So we wrote a song, and I think Chris went up to New York. Ice-T recorded it. He didn't even he didn't have anything prepared. He just listened to the song 3 or 4 times, went into a room, came back an hour later, and just busted those vocals out that you hear in like one take, and that was it.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. I never met him personally myself, but I heard he was really cool, and it turned out cool. I know a lot of people didn't like it because you got a rapper on your record and blah blah blah. But
Yeah,
we
fuck
were
the
thinking more of
haters.
the yeah, we were just thinking more of the body count kind of
Yeah.
style of that he does.
I
So
love me some Body Count. Would
yeah,
love to see them live eventually.
I think we kind of missed the ball on that though because back then they would put out like a 3 song CD promoting the record, and they put that song on there, One Bullet Left. I'm like, man, why'd you do that? Because now anybody that was in the body count that might not like the rest of our songs, they're not going to buy the album because you just released it on a promo CD.
Yeah.
But that's hindsight, so whatever, man.
Yeah. Then
Yeah,
next up is Bringer of Blood. I love that. So what was that whole album like?
yeah. To me, that's we got back on track on that one, kind of as far as our style that we were doing. Like, it's to me, it's a little bit more like Maximum Violence. We tuned back up, and it was fun writing those songs. It was a good time doing that, and I love that recording process. And I think it was pretty well received album.
Nice. And I thought it was kind of interesting. Like the last song on the album is Escape from the Grave, and I love how you have like a hidden track called White Widow. So how
Yeah.
did that hidden track come to be?
That track came about. Me and Greg, the drummer, were just kind of fooling around in the studio before we ever started recording that day. And I didn't know that the producer, he just had the mics on. So we did that song, you know, and then Chris, Steve, and guys come out and say, "Hey, that was killer. What was that?" I was like, "Oh, we just did that right here spontaneously on the spot." So Chris put vocals to it. We didn't know he was going to do that until like later on, like weeks later, he's like, "Hey, check this out." So it was just a spontaneous thing. We were rehearsing, and you know,
Nice. Nice.
just one of those things.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we move on to the second Graveyard Classics, and you basically covered like Back in Black by AC/DC in full. So, what made you decide to like cover that album in its entirety? Were you like all fans of AC/DC?
Well, yeah, naturally, but we had other songs written. I mean, other songs chosen, like 15 killer classic metal songs from whatever. But kind of at the last minute, you're like, you know what? If we really want to screw with people's minds and do something way out in left field, let's just do the whole Back in Black album. So that's what we did. And
Yeah, it
you
sounds
know, there's
badass.
hate. Obviously, you got lots of haters on that, but there's a lot of people that liked it too. So it was just something fun to do. You know.
Yeah. And then of course the next full length is 13, and hard to believe this year does mark 20 years. I know you got like a couple album anniversaries, but
Yeah.
tell me about like 20 years of 13.
Well, to be honest, I pretty much hate that record.
Really?
I think this. Well, it's because of the production. I think the songs on there are very good songs, and there's some quality stuff on there for sure. But the production sounds like if you put the CD in and you throw a wet blanket over your stereo and crank it, that's what you got right there. It's just dead sounding, lifeless production. And unfortunately, because we played those songs, some of those songs live, and they sounded great. But that CD is one I'm like, nope. I listened to it once when I got it back in the day, and I'm like, never again. I can't stand the production. It's terrible.
Yeah. But then kind of breaking away from Six Feet Under for a little bit. In 2006, you started up Denial Fiend. So how did that
Hmm.
idea come to be to start up Denial Fiend?
That came out of the ashes of another project. A friend of mine, Sam Williams, who's also in Down by Law, a melodic famous punk band, he wanted to kind of start. He's a huge fan of death metal and heavy metal, everything. He wanted to kind of do a project. And there's a friend of mine in town who put it together. His name is Mark Godachuk. He was the singer on it. Anyhow, it was called Shadows with Knives, and Cam Lee was recruited to sing on it. And obviously, I had speculation to doing anything with him again, but I gave it a shot, and he was cool at the time. We did like a 4 song little demo. It didn't really do anything, but out of the ashes of that, Denial Fiend was born, and we got a different drummer on that. Curtis Beeson from Nancy Savage played drums on that, and Ibex Moon, which is John McAtee's label.
My
They
homie
put
right
it out.
there.
Yeah, they put it out, and it was a killer record. It's like punk thrash death metal album, and Cam did great. He did great vocals on it. It sounded killer, and everything was
Yeah.
cool at that time.
Yeah, I
But
thought
then that
Day
fell apart.
Rise is a very underrated like album in my opinion.
Oh yeah, it's a great album, and that fell apart. Cam contributed totally in the downfall of that. But we kept going. We got a different drummer, the DRI drummer, um, and at the time, and we got Blaine from The Accused to do the second record, Horror Holocaust. Great songs on there. Blaine has a very distinctive voice, and you obviously can hear it right off the bat on that record.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then of course that same year in 2007 you did the next Six Feet Under album, Commandment. So tell me about
Mhm.
that.
It's a cool record. I like that record. I think Eric Rutan, we did it at his studio. I think we even actually wrote the whole album in the studio. We went into the studio with like not very many ideas, and we just forced ourselves to write songs. And I think it turned out pretty good. I like the production on that. Um, Very good production, by the way. And yeah, I think it was pretty well received. Did some touring for it, so that was a fun record to do.
Yeah. And then of course like going into flash forward to 2008 you did Death Rituals, which is a quick turnaround from Commandment. Did you start writing for this right after Commandment came out?
Yeah, not long. We did some. I think we did like some European touring, some shows and stuff, and then we're like, let's just do another album the next year. So we, yeah. We did that one as well. There's some very good songs on that one. I'm proud of that one too. It's a great production on there as well.
Yeah,
Um,
like Death Machete. And you did the Motley Crue cover Bastard, which I thought
yeah.
was kind of interesting, like a death metal band got covering a glam metal song.
Well, yeah, but if you put yourself in the time frame of a 14-year-old back in '83, that was a big record for them. You know what I mean? It kind of, you know, it marked. Um, you see videos on MTV. There's pentagrams. They were kind of dark at the time, so it's like, hey, we still like that record, and that song's cool. So let's just try it. Something. We like to sometimes stretch the boundaries back then. I mean, we did Stepping Stone by Monkeys or whoever's version of what was at that time. Yeah, so we did some different stuff, but that was cool.
Yeah. Then going into 2009, I want to talk about a little bit about Obliterate, which I'm always curious. Like nobody ever talks about that band. Like I'm always curious because about them.
Yeah, I don't think it's come out yet at all. Still, the CD. I mean, I was contacted, um, and hey, you want to play bass on this project I got? And I was absolutely, so because Dan Swan was involved, keyboard player for Psy, there were some names on there, and so I recorded it, and I don't think it's ever seen the light of day.
And do you think it ever will?
It's cool. I hope so. I mean, I did that in 2009, I believe, and
Yeah, 15, almost
it
over 16 years ago.
yeah, there's good stuff on there. It may sound dated now, but I don't know. It kind of sounded like Slayer on steroids a little bit,
Oh,
but it was
wow.
cool. So maybe one
Nice.
day it will see the light of day.
Right. Then going into 2010, you did your last thing with 6 Feet Under Graveyard Classics 3. So what was that like? Because I know you did like Metallica, Merciful Fate, Anvil, Slayer, your Van
Yeah,
Halen. I loved I thought it was a really good, another great cover album. So tell me about that.
yeah. The song selection was really cool. I liked it. The production's okay. Uh, that was kind of one of the last things that it's kind of one of the things that told me, okay, I'm done with this band because I was never allowed to hear any of the production of it. And there's some bass stuff that they fucked up on there, and it really pissed me off. And so, to me, that was kind of one of the last nails in the coffin for me. I mean, there is good songs on there, and there are some songs that sound good production wise, but some of the bass stuff and there's some production errors that I did not like. But hey, I
Yeah.
don't know. That was
Yeah.
just the last one for me. So,
Yeah. Was it hard to leave 6 Feet Under because you were there from like pretty much the beginning?
um, a little bit, but I tell you what helped ease that transition is I already started helping Obituary in 2010, and that camp is
Okay.
like the total opposite of such 6 Feet Under camp back then, and it felt great to be in that camp of Obituary. So when it came down to deciding to leave 6 Feet Under, it was a smoother transition because I was already helping out Obituary and they wanted me anyhow.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sucked because you put 16 years of something together, and then it's kind of like at the very end when you light that firecracker and it just fizzes and never pops. That's kind of how I felt.
Yeah.
So, all right, yep,
Yeah.
time to move on. Take a
Yeah.
different path. So,
Yeah.
I
Which
mean, I'm
will
fortunate I was in 6 Feet Under. I don't take granted for it at all. It was a great time, and we did a lot of killer things. So,
Yeah. Then going into 2011, you did the latest Denial Fiend album, Horror Holocaust. I thought that was a really good album. Tell me about that.
yeah, it was a good album. Great songs on there, and we had that's when we got Rob Rampy. He was with DSI at the time. Blaine agreed to do the vocals. We recorded it here where I live, near my hometown here in Brandon. And Sam Williams, he's an amazing guitar player, and he wrote most of the stuff. And it's just killer. Great production. It was done over at Eric Rutan's studio, Mana, and it was fun. Maybe one day we can do a third record, but
Yeah.
Sam's really busy, I'm really busy, so who knows?
Yes. In the year 2350, we'll have a new album.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then of course, 2011, you officially joined up with Obituary. So how was that like
Yes.
playing with, of course, like Trevor and the Tardy Bros?
That was great. I mean, I've known those guys forever, since like 84, 85. They live right near me. We'd see each other at shows. I was fully aware of when Executioner put out their first single and the demos and then all this and that. So we were very, you know, we knew each other very well. So joining them on that level wasn't hard at all. And the music's not totally so different than 6 Feet Under. So it was a nice transition. It was fun. It was new and exciting and fresh for me. And those dudes are totally, everyone has an opinion. You know what I mean? Your voice counts. Your voice is going to be listened to and heard and that kind of thing. And it was great. It was a great time.
Yeah. And then tell me about making Inked in Blood. Blood, this was like your first record with Obituary. So what
Yeah,
was the whole writing and recording process like for this?
it was great. Took our time, and this Redneck Studios is at John's house in Gibsonton, Florida. So it's a very comfortable atmosphere. We record where we practice, so you're totally used to that environment. And it was very easy to record, and the songs are awesome. I had a great time doing that one. And ever since I joined the band, we've been pretty busy touring. So
Yeah. Yeah, hell yeah. And I think I remember seeing you on this album cycle. You did that tour with Cannibal and I
yeah,
think Cryptopsy and Abysmal Dawn back in 2016. I remember you kicked it
yeah,
off at the old Masquerade in Atlanta. I think I've almost seen every Obituary show since then. I think I've seen Obituary like 11 times now. I just saw you all
yeah,
like a few months ago at Maryland Death Fest. That
yeah,
was that was a hell of a show where you also played, I think, Cause of Death in its entirety. So what was that
yeah.
experience like?
It's great. We're doing that. We're doing that this year, like on most of our tours. It's killer. That album's a great album. So
Yeah.
it's fun to play that album. People love that album. That's like anytime someone says, "What's your favorite Obituary album?" Kind of it always goes to Cause of Death. You know what I
Yeah, I
mean?
even
So
have the shirt of it.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and I even remember that MDF show. That was great. I remember, of course, our friend Robin like introduced y'all, and she was like, "You wanted the best." I was like, "Damn, I did not
Yeah.
expect that." But when you played that, now obviously you weren't on Cause of Death, but when you joined up with Obituary, were you like listening to like Cause of Death and slowly rerun and be like, "I want to. This is what I need to do," or did you wanted to like bring like your own style into Obituary?
Well, yes, and I think I have put my own style in the songs and the new songs we've written, the style I play, and yeah, I just want to, my thing is to be a solid bass player. I don't want anyone ever to have to say, well, it was a great show, but the bass was kind of shitty tonight. Even if it's just simple bass, playing rhythm, following the rhythm guitar, I don't care. I just want to be solid. And that's what I bring. That's what I brought to the band. Nothing against Frank Watkins, but to me, I feel like I solidified the band a little more and tightened it up some.
Yeah. And then kind of going forward to 2016, you started up Hideous. So I'm always curious about that band because I don't think there's really much about them.
No, that band had a lot of potential, but I was just so busy at the time. And Matt Bishop, the guy that kind of created the band, he was pretty busy, but we all lived in different areas and we could never really find a drummer. I mean, we had Greg Gall for a while, but he moved on and we could never really find a drummer. And I was so busy, I couldn't dedicate 100% to doing it. I mean, we were able to play a handful of shows here and there. And I thought we had, I like the name, I like the logo, but I don't think we put enough time into it. And it kind of just floundered, and that was it.
Yeah. And then 2017, you dropped the self-titled Obituary album. I thought it was a
Yeah,
really great album, one of my favorite albums from that year. And I've
yeah.
I've had Donald on here before, and I was always curious, like because usually anytime when a band does like a self-titled album, it's always like their first in their discography or sometimes in their last. But when I feel like it's like later in their career or like in the middle, I always feel like that's like a change. Was there that the reason why the album was being self-titled?
I just think it was time for that. I mean, we just kind of wanted to make a statement. This is Obituary, and the album's called Obituary.
Yeah, try to like
So
make
that's,
a strong statement.
yeah, I mean, we didn't put a whole lot of thought process into it. We did, but we didn't dwell on it a whole time. We're like, hey, let's just call the album Obituary. It's time. I mean, we can come up with 1,000 different bloody, gory, horror sounding album titles, but let's just call it Obituary.
Yeah. And I also
Yeah.
love like the like especially the song 10,000 Ways to Die. I thought it was great. And I love how you did like the animated like music video. So how did that
Yeah.
idea come to be to make your all
Yeah.
like cartoons and stuff?
Um, in between, let's see, while we were kind of writing for that album, the self-titled album, we were contacted by a guy named Balaz. He's an awesome, cartoonist, artist, whatever you want to, but he's like, hey, I'd love to do a video for you guys. And he sent us a sample, like a 15, 20-second clip of something that he made. And we're like, that's great. So we kind of gave him a storyboard, and he had ideas too. This is kind of what we want to do. This is what we're thinking. So he started sending some dailies here and there because it takes a long time to do that. It takes months to create that. And we were like, wow, this is awesome. And we were like, you know what? We don't care if people are upset. Oh, how can a death metal band that sings about such dark things have such a goofy, comedic, bright video?
Yeah.
But we were like, if you don't like it, just fuck right off. We don't give a shit,
Yeah.
and we love it.
Hell of
That's
a
why we did a
video.
couple more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
we
it
did
would
a
be a
few
cool
more like
idea
that.
if
And
you did
people,
like it would be a cool idea if there would be like an obituary cartoon series a la Metalocalypse.
yeah, oh, that would be great.
Yeah, I'd
Like a
watch that shit.
Scooby-Doo kind of thing. We could solve mysteries and stuff.
Be like Scooby-Doo or some shit like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah,
then for the self-titled, you toured for a little bit from like 2018, 19, and then a bit of
yeah.
2020, and then of course like the virus that shall not be named happened. And I know it really kind of like fucked up like the music industry and stuff, but it was
Hmm.
a hard time for a lot of musicians. But for you personally, how did you manage to like cope with that?
Well, we were a little bit fortunate. We were on tour right when they shut everything down, with Black Label Society. So we came home, uh, and what we did was we did some live streams. We did Slowly in its entirety in a live stream. We did Cause in its entirety in a live stream. Then we did a couple other live streams of us just playing the normal set.
Yeah, I think I caught some of
And
those.
yeah, that kind of financially helped us get through that. It made us enough money to just pay our bills and kind of squeak by. And then as soon as the word came out, hey, you can tour again, we did another Black Label tour,
Yeah.
part two, to kind of make up
Yeah,
for that first
I
one.
think I saw that one when you were playing
Um,
up in Athens.
with Prong and
Yep, I was at that tour.
yeah. So ever since then, it's been the gas pedal has been pushed down hard. We've been cruising, which is great because none of us are getting any younger. So let's just
Try to do it as much
do
as you can.
it exactly. So that's what we've been doing. We've been on great tours. We've got great booking agents, and they put us on tour with some great bands, and we've
Yeah,
been doing pretty good, and I'm happy for that, and we've been fortunate. Yes.
cool. And then going into 2021, I'm always curious about Castrofate. Tell me about that.
Well, I was. It's funny that I even got out. I like a guy asked me to play on his album, and that was the name of the band. And I was never able to do it. I was just too busy. I was going to record the bass on the CD, but it was like, dude, I don't have the time to sit down and learn these songs and everything right now. So I think our producer Joe Sincata played bass on that actually.
Oh, yeah,
But yeah, I mean, it was just one of those things where stars didn't line up, planets didn't line up. I wasn't able to do it.
yeah,
Probably should have not announced that I was going to do it until I actually did it. But hey,
yeah. But then
wasn't my call.
Yeah. But then in that same year, I think it was, but even like, I think 2020, 21, you did, started up with Inhuman Condition. So tell me about that and how'd you get to know like our boy Jeremy Kling and of course Taylor?
Yeah. Um, I've known Jeremy for a long time from the absence, or in the 2000s. So, and I knew that they had joined Massacre, and I was like, okay, well, hey, hopefully it works out for you because Rick and I had another version of Massacre going. We did an album Back from Beyond, like 2014-ish or something like that, and good album. We did a tour or two, then that just fell apart as usual. That's how Massacre is. So I thought Massacre was completely done at that moment. But Cam started it up again, and Jeremy and Taylor joined. I guess Cam, lead singer syndrome. He kicked out Rick and the drummer at the time, Mikey. So then Jeremy and Taylor joined. So I was like thinking to myself, okay, I hope it works out. But then I saw about a year later that they quit. They Jeremy's quote was awesome. He's like, "I've been Cam lead." So I just sent him a message saying, "Hey, dude, sorry to hear all that, man. It just sucks you had to go through that shit." So we talked a little bit. Then maybe a few weeks later, they hit me up and said, "Hey, dude, we got 14 songs we wrote that was going to be for a Massacre album. You want to put some bass on it?" I was like, "Hell yeah,
Yeah, which then
why
led
not?"
into Rat God.
Yeah, I mean, twofold for me to kind of just stick it back to Massacre and to the band's called Inhuman Condition. After that second EP, I wrote that song Inhuman Condition. So it's like, yeah, let's use that name. It makes sense. I'm in the band. I wrote that song. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So we recorded those 14 songs, and I think nine of them are on the first record, and we saved the others for the second record, Fear Sick. So that's how that came about. It just kind of came about like, hey, let's record these songs, and I did. And then it's like, let's put an album out. Why not? And then Dan Goldsworthy came up with some amazing artwork, and people loved it. They accepted it, and it was like, oh, this
Yeah,
sounds
it
killer.
definitely
This is
looked
like
like
even
the
more.
artwork looks like it came from the 90s.
Yeah, yeah. They're like, this is even more Massacre than Massacre. So, all right, cool. That's what I wanted to hear. And I agree. The songs are amazing. Jeremy and Taylor are amazing musicians, amazing drummer and vocalist. Taylor is an amazing guitar player. He can pretty much play any kind of music you want him to.
Yeah.
Writes some incredible riffs. So very fortunate to be part of the Human Condition as well.
Yeah. And then I also want to talk about like Fear Sick. Like you mentioned, like four of those songs are from the Rat God sessions. So tell me about
Yeah.
like some of like the other songs. Like how did those songs come to be?
Um, well, you know, at the time, Taylor and Jeremy, I mean, they live in their studio basically. It's in their house kind of thing. And they just spit riffs out. I mean, sometimes Jeremy will just get on it and do like a song of just drums. He's like, here's some drums, put music to it. So when they get on a roll, they bust out some songs. So that's you know we just wrote four more songs for Fear Sick, and then boom, we had another album. Um, and Panic Prayer is an EP between those, and it's a good one too.
Yeah. Yeah, and then of course in 2021 and 22 you also did some I guess death tribute shows with Living Monstrosity and Left to Die. So how did you come to
Yes,
be to play with those? I mean, obviously you were part of Death for a little bit. So how did you end up
yeah.
like coming to be with those bands?
Well, I was contacted by a guy named Steven Berwanger. He's a huge death freak. He wanted to put a show together. Um, of us doing spiritual healing in its entirety. He wanted James to play. So James agreed. He was on board. And Matt and Gus were on board too. And I've met those dudes in the past. So I knew them pretty well. I know how they're great musicians, but they're both death freaks. So they're the ones that I know would do the songs right. They wouldn't cheat. They wouldn't put their own jazz it up in some sort of way. They would play the songs how they were recorded, and that's what you should do. Um, so we had back-to-back nights doing the spiritual healing album, and we did a couple leprosy songs and a few scream songs. We just wanted to touch on that era, and then we basically the band that opened for us was basically Deaf to Wall without Gene. Gene didn't want to do the show,
Yeah.
so Dirk came in from Megadeth. He did the show. Well, it was a huge success, two sold out nights, and kind of out of the ashes of that whole thing, Rick Ross posted a question online. Hey, would anybody be interested in hearing Leprosy in its entirety live? And hundreds of people said yes. So we started talking amongst ourselves, and we're like, I was like, okay, I'll do this only if Matt and Gus are involved. And they're like, yes, we're down for it. So we put the word out that we were doing this, and all of a sudden, like out of nowhere, it's like we had like 2 or 3 tours lined up instantly. Like, wow, this is amazing. So we took it on the road, and it was great.
Yeah.
People loved it, and it felt great to play those songs again, especially for me because I didn't get to record the songs in the studio.
Yeah.
So playing them live is like redemption a little bit for me because I knew the songs in the studio. I knew how to play. I could have recorded them, but I just had an accident in the studio. Not an accident, it's just kind of a medical condition. And anyhow, so playing those for me is like a feather in the cap. And a lot of people didn't get to see that stuff back then. And
Yeah. I was
when we were playing,
non-existent.
yeah, when Let the Die are playing, if you close your eyes, you're back in 1989, in 1988, because Matt to me sounds the closest I've ever heard to Chuck. He plays Chuck's leads spot on. Gus is an amazing drummer. He plays the songs just as Bill recorded them or Chris Reifert. So it's great. It's a good time. It's like, hey, come out. You want to hear some nostalgia? You want to relive a little bit of the past? Come out and drink some beers and just listen to us and have a good time. That's kind of how we approach that whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's still going. There's still gas in the tank. We're fixing to do a tour in Europe coming up in September, and we're going to do the whole Scream Bloody Gore album in its entirety.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
crazy. Because I remember seeing Left to Die back in 2022. He played at Boggs in Atlanta, and that was a great show. And I remember my friend of mine's band opened up for you guys, and I was like, wow. I had no idea that you would open up for like a legendary band.
yeah. Well, yeah, like I said, it's fun to play that stuff, and we play the Death stuff as it was recorded. We don't want to change it up or whatever. Like, oh, we're such technical musicians now that we have to throw in stuff that wasn't on the recording. That's not how it is. To me, when you cover something, you play it as it was recorded. So
Yeah. And then
yeah,
going into 2023, I want to talk about the latest Obituary album, Dying of Everything. One of my favorite
yeah.
albums from that year. So how's like the whole like record cycle been like for Dying of Everything?
It's been amazing. We're still touring on that. Um, Recording process was great. It was incredible. I had a great time doing that, and it turned out great. Joe Sincata did an amazing job on the production, and we've been touring steady for it ever since. I mean, we're starting to talk about a little bit, maybe, hey, let's kick some ideas around, maybe record an album in a year or so, possibly. Who knows? But I think that's a great record. And John and Donald and Ken shred on that album. They stepped their game up. You know what I mean? They did a great job on that record.
Yeah. And did you wanted to like musically continue in the same vein as the self-titled, or did you wanted to try something different that Obituary hasn't done before?
I mean, we never consciously said let's try something different. I know there are a few different things on there. John has a few different vocal styles, and Ken is even more. He's even better guitar player than he was on Inked in Blood. You know what I mean? So he stepped his game up. So that just lent to everything. And we just wanted to be aggressive on there too. So some of the songs sound almost like thrash a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, and being as it has now been out for like 2 years now, like how has like the
Mhm.
overall like reception and feedback been like from the fans?
Great, great. They love it. Really haven't heard one bad thing about it. I mean, everyone that comes out to our meet and greets or our shows, you shake people's hands. They love the album. They love the album cover too. It's a little bit different for us. So there's a famous Polish artist. He actually passed away shortly after doing that artwork, I believe.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
no,
what a great last piece of artwork that he did.
yes. I mean, I love the color pattern of it and everything is great. So
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So definitely. And then of course like it's been like now 2 years since Dying of Everything. Like what's like the status for the next Obituary album? Like is there like a tentative release date y'all have for it?
no, no. We're just kind of talking about, hey, maybe by 2000, maybe by 26 or 27, we'll have another album out, possibly. We haven't
Nice.
set any kind of release date. There's really no songs even recorded yet or anything like that. It's just kind of just amongst ourselves, kind of kicking ideas around. That's it.
All right. And then, of course, last but certainly not least, we have the new Inhuman Condition album, Mind Trap, which has been out now for almost a month now. So, can you talk to me about like the whole writing and recording process of it?
I was actually on tour, and Taylor's like, "Hey, we started writing for the album, new album." And by the time I got home from the tour, it was kind of already mostly written. Like I said, when Jeremy and Taylor get on writing, they just don't stop. They're like a machine. They just pump shit out, and the riffs on there are like they're so amazing to me. It's like the catchiest, most slamming, knuckle dragging, just straight up death metal thrash you can hear. You know what I mean? And the drumming on there is just amazing. It's
Yeah.
like barbarian, just punching you in the face. There's never a second where you can breathe.
Yeah. And did
Yeah.
you wanted to also continue after Fear Sick, or did you want to make this album kind of like stand out?
No, I think it was just like, okay, here's the third record. Let's just see what we can do. Let's try and up the game a little bit. A few of the songs are, I don't want to say the word technical, but a few of the songs are slightly more musical, if you want to say. But that's just Taylor, he's amazing. And, you know, I don't think a whole lot of was put into it. Like, this is our third record. It's a make it or break it record. No, we just put it out, so.
All right. And of course on the album you have like some guest appearances like on Face for Later you have
Mhm.
the Paul from Cannibal and Jamie Me Stewart from The Absence doing some guest vocals, and of course and also on Recollections of the Future you have Jonas Kilgren, formerly of Scar Symmetry. So
Mhm.
how did they end up doing like guest vocals on those songs?
Well, Paul, he's a good friend of ours. He's known Jeremy and Taylor a long time, and he lives close to those dudes. And he actually wrote some lyrics for Rat God album, and he wrote the lyrics for Face for Later. So yeah, he helps contribute in that way. And obviously, Jamie, he's in the absence with those dudes. So he was asked, and he said, sure, And Jonas, obviously, they've known him too for a long time. So everyone was on board, yeah, to do it. So that was good.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what would you say like the overall like themes and sort of message be for Mind Trap?
Um, you know, I'm not 100% certain because Jeremy writes all the lyrics, and I really haven't had time to like digest every lyric and all that. But I mean, the themes are anything from serial killer to how society you know makes people like sheep, basically. So
All right. And kind of
yeah,
also want
sorry, I couldn't go deeper into that, but I really haven't looked at each meaning of each song lyrically yet. So
yeah, it's all good. But kind of also want to talk about is your bass playing. And I know as a bassist, you probably heard your fair share of bass player jokes and memes and stuff. But what I
sure,
think is fine, you don't gravitate towards flashy bass playing, but I feel like you find ways to link what the guitars are doing with the melody and what the drums are doing with the rhythm.
yeah.
So what I want to ask you is what's like your approach to like tracking bass, whether it be with Obituary and Human Condition or any of the other projects that you've been involved with?
Well, my number one goal is okay. Let me get a good tone, and like I said, I want to lock in with the drums and the rhythm guitar. And if there's some spots here and there to do something on the bass, fine. But that's not my forte. That's not how my journey in playing bass began. Like I didn't learn musical theory when I was 6 or 7 years old and playing a jazz band anywhere like that. Now, I've always been a rock and roll guy, and I was handed a bass and said, "Hey, play in my death metal band." So, but I just pick my spots here and there. My approach is just to be rock solid, pick your spots, and just have a cool tone. People can laugh about bass players and everything, but next time you listen to an album, just turn the bass off and tell me how that album sounds.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
and I'm always curious about like your bass setup, like what's like your go-to in terms of like basses, strings, pedals, amps, and all that good stuff.
yeah. Well, Ampeg is my amp setup. 810 cabinet with an Ampeg SVT2 head. I run through a rat pedal and a dark glass pedal, and I kind of EQ stuff in. Strings, 105 to 45 gauge, usually demarkedly blue steel, or some stainless steel, and that's about it.
Nice. And so kind of
EMG
also,
pickups.
yeah. And so kind of also like in the end to sort of wrap things up, what's next for Obituary or Inhuman Condition? Have you all got any more tours lined up? And like what, if
Yeah,
you're allowed to say?
Obituary. Here in about a week, we're going to go to Europe and do some festivals. Vakken, Brutal Assault, various others, Dynamo. That's just 2 weeks. Then I come home, and then I go out with Left to Die for a little bit in Europe, and then we have the Testament Obituary tour starting it right after that Left to Die tour in Europe. And then Obituary is going to do the Headbangers Boat, and then we're going to do a thing we call the Redneck Run in Florida. But then in Human Condition, we have stuff lined up for November and January in the States. So if you just go to my social sites or those bands' socials, you'll see tour dates and stuff listed.
Awesome. So thank
Yeah.
you, Terry, for this conversation. It's so great to finally have you on. It's just any final words you want to say to the viewers that are watching us to close this out?
Yeah. First of all, I want to say I'm sorry that I'm in the, you know, frame of my house that I'm
Yeah.
building,
It's all good, man. All good.
but this is the
Uh,
best place for the Wi-Fi. But to the fans, I want to say thank you so much for all the years of support and whatever support you give me in the future. Come out to see whatever band I'm in, and we'll have a good time.
awesome. So everybody, Terry Butler from Obituary and Human Condition, and we'll see you next time.